Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad and grateful to have you here. We've got a lot to discuss today. I don't normally have a guest at the top of the show, but in order to accommodate one of my favorite guests, we're going to go ahead and bring him on here anyway to celebrate his massive win at the Supreme Court of the United States yesterday. Joining us now is Donald Trump attorney and Missouri Attorney General candidate Will Scharf, live right now. Good morning, Will, and congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Austin. Great to be with you. It's always fun to win at the U.S. Supreme Court. It's even more fun to win at the U.S. Supreme Court for President Donald J. Trump. We triggered a lot of libs yesterday, and it's just been a great day.
Well, congratulations. And I guess the first question that I have to ask, considering all of the discussion that's going on in Sonia Sotomayor's dissent, is Joe Biden planning to assassinate Donald Trump with SEAL Team 6? I guess that's perfectly legal now, right?
No, look, this is absolutely absurd. The Constitution and our system of government, we have very powerful checks in place to prevent that sort of illegal action from ever happening. But never before in the history of our republic has post hoc prosecution of a former president been deemed to be one of those structural checks. No former president in American history has ever been prosecuted. And I'll tell you, as a student of history, we've had a lot of presidents attempt to do very illegal things. So the Constitution remains robust. Our system of government remains robust. The only thing the Supreme Court's decision does yesterday, really, is it reestablishes the norm that existed before Joe Biden, that you can't just go out and prosecute a president for his official acts in office because you disagree with some of the things that he did. That's the radical constitutional innovation that we were dealing with here. And that's something the courts have rejected going back to the early republic. Marbury v. Madison, Chief Justice John Marshall says that the official acts of a president are never to be reviewed by the courts. So that's what we're dealing with here. This is a huge win for us. It's a huge win for anyone who cares about the Constitution and the separation of powers. And all of this sort of liberal meltdown we're seeing. It's Trump derangement syndrome at its finest.
So how will this affect Donald Trump's other cases?
So obviously this puts the D.C. prosecution on a slow train to nowhere. We think that case is essentially it's untriable. It's not prosecutable without the official acts that are included in the indictment. So D.C. is crippled by this. It has real impact on the New York case that went to trial over the last few months. That's because in their haste to get Trump, they actually introduced a lot of evidence of official acts during the course of that trial. Things like official statements made by the White House while President Trump was president. As a result of that, we think that New York trial verdict should be overturned. We think that a new trial should be ordered in New York. That's something that we're going to see play out over the next week and a half or so in New York. It also has real impact on the Florida prosecution. That's the Florida documents case, because a lot of the decisions President Trump made, including the designation of his personal versus presidential records, were made in his official capacity as president. So there's a potential angle for presidential immunity in that case as well. All in all, this was a massive victory. This is an issue we've been working on for almost a year now. And it was just great to have the validation that we got yesterday. The Supreme Court said, contrary to all the predictions of the mainstream media and the legal commentariat, that we were right and they were wrong. That the Constitution prohibits exactly the sort of prosecution that we've seen over and over again against President Trump in the last year.
So, Will, I guess the big question here is, and the most difficult question will be, how are we going to be able to determine what are official acts versus unofficial acts?
So the Supreme Court set out basically a three-part test. Basically, for acts that fall within the core of presidential powers, we call them the inalienable Article 2 powers, the absolute core of presidential authority. The Supreme Court says that there the president has absolute immunity, period, end of story. Then it goes on to say that for acts that fall within the legal term is the outer perimeter of presidential responsibilities, There is a presumption of immunity that attaches. That presumption can be rebutted if a prosecution can show that what it's trying to do doesn't impede on executive prerogative. That outer perimeter test comes from Nixon v. Fitzgerald. That's a civil immunity case from the 1980s. That's a well-established test. It's been litigated many times in the courts. So there, we have pretty good guidance on what falls within the outer perimeter of presidential authority. And then obviously the third category is purely private conduct. For purely private conduct, a president has no immunity. There's actually a very interesting history around that notion. I know that you're a student of history, Austin. It's worth noting that I believe it was President Ulysses S. Grant was prosecuted for illegal carriage racing while he was president in Washington, D.C. He was ticketed, the equivalent of drag racing. Back then, I guess they used to race carriages through the streets. So he was ticketed for illegal carriage racing. That's purely private conduct, has nothing to do with his presidential responsibilities. So in cases like that, you can obviously still prosecute a former president. But in terms of actual presidential acts, presidential responsibilities, either they are absolutely immune if they fall within that core of Article 2 of the Constitution, or if they fall within the outer perimeter, even the outer perimeter of presidential responsibility, we now have a presumption of immunity.
I was laughing yesterday. Somebody posted that Donald Trump planned to use his presidential immunity to stream a Major League Baseball game without a license, which made me laugh. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm speaking to Donald Trump's attorney, Will Scharf, who had a massive win at the Supreme Court yesterday. He, along with Trump's legal team, Will is a candidate for attorney general here in Missouri, and he is gaining on the current attorney general. We're going to talk about that race in just a few minutes as we go over this Supreme Court case and the outcome of it. I saw some of Donald Trump's critics on the right, some of his right-wing conservative critics were saying that this means that the Biden crime family can't be prosecuted now. Ostensibly, Joe Biden would be protected under this as well, though, correct?
Well, in terms of all of the foreign corruption allegations that have been leveled against Joe Biden and his family, that's clearly private conduct. There's nothing about this opinion that would impact, for example, Hunter Biden or Jim Biden and all of their illegal acts that they've committed. With respect to official acts in office, yes, we don't believe that former presidents should be able to be prosecuted for their official acts in office. They can be impeached and convicted, and where they violate the law, they should be. But you can't have this system of political recrimination and prosecution every time a president leaves office. That's just a recipe for chaos. So with respect to Joe Biden, I'd say that everything that we've heard about the foreign deals, Burisma and China, all of that sort of stuff, first of all, it largely predates his presidential administration. And second, there's nothing in there that's presidential conduct. There's nothing in there that's relating to Joe Biden's presidential responsibilities. So certainly for all of that, Joe Biden can still be held accountable. I've said before that the Biden foreign influence peddling operation, I believe it's the greatest political scandal in American history. And I hope that Joe Biden and Jim Biden and Hunter are finally held accountable for all of the illegal things that they did.
What's your reaction to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez now calling for impeachment of Supreme Court justices after this?
Alexandria Occasional Cortex can attempt to impeach the Supreme Court justices if she wants. That's going nowhere fast. This is just an absolute liberal meltdown because the Biden campaign of lawfare against President Trump is failing. This was their trump card. They wanted to litigate out this election in courtrooms instead of trying to win it at the ballot box, because I believe they know they can't win it at the ballot box. So the greatest card the left had to play has just been taken off the table by the U.S. Supreme Court. And the meltdown that we've seen in the last 24 hours is a predictable result of that.
Did you find any irony at all in Democrats talking about presidents assassinating their political opponents using SEAL Team 6, considering that Barack Obama is the only modern president to assassinate a U.S. citizen without a trial?
We made that point at oral argument that, Barack Obama ordered drone strikes that killed American citizens. What's to stop a prosecutor in, let's say, the Middle District of Florida, in Tampa, Florida, where CENTCOM is located? What's to stop a prosecutor there from indicting Barack Obama for murder? I mean, that's the natural result of what the Democrats were insisting should be the rule here. And we believe that would just destroy the republic. That if you had every former president being dragged into court and potentially thrown in prison for the very difficult decisions that presidents have to make while they're in office, it would cripple the institution of the presidency and thereby cripple the separation of powers that's central to our constitutional system. At oral argument, Justice Gorsuch said, this really isn't a case about Trump. This is a case for the ages. This is a case about the core of our constitutional system of government. And we're just deeply grateful that the Supreme Court did the right thing here and upheld the constitutional system that has served our country so well, really, since the founding.
Are you of the opinion then that the authorization for the use of military force rather than a formal declaration of war for these modern conflicts is in line with proper constitutional duties when it comes to the role of the president? So the assassination of Anwar al-Awlaki by Barack Obama essentially was argued that this is a proper and necessary use of presidential executive authority under the AUMF, because most of the circles that I run in seem to think that that falls outside of the purview of the president, despite it being a congressional authorization.
So I'd make 2 points to that. First, I think America should get back to the constitutional system of declarations of war. I think that's the system our framers set up. I think it's very important that Congress has the ability, through the declaration of war power, to moderate some aspects of the president's authority with respect to foreign policy and war. In terms of the specific legal question that you're asking, one of the most problematic aspects of the use of the AUMF, we passed this AUMF in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 to address a very specific situation, which was an attempt to hold al-Qaeda accountable for the 9/11 attacks. What happened after that is the use by a number of presidents of that AUMF to pursue foreign policy objectives, to pursue military action that went vastly beyond that original scope of the AUMF. And I think from both a constitutional standpoint, probably more importantly, from a policy standpoint, that's just not the way things are supposed to function.
Will, I know I don't have you for very much longer, so I want to switch to politics very briefly. Really quickly, your take on Joe Biden's debate performance the other night.
I mean, America saw the truth, which is that Joe Biden is just not capable of executing the office of the presidency. He shouldn't be in office. He certainly shouldn't be on the ballot for another 4 years. And the response by Democrat aides was fascinating. That they leaked to Axios. Well, Joe Biden is great, from the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And after that, he falls off a little bit. Well, I hate to say it, but there's an awful lot that happens around the world outside the hours of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we need a president who's able to take decisive action 24 hours a day, not just when it's convenient for him. So I think it was deeply troubling just as an American to see a president on stage be unable to string two sentences together. I think the American people see what's going on here. I think the American people saw a stark contrast between a totally in touch, aggressive President Trump and Joe Biden, who seemed lost at times. So I think that was a great night for the Republican Party and a great night for President Trump.
I'm looking at some of the polling that we're seeing around the state of Missouri. We broadcast this show from Jefferson City. I know you're running for office to take the role of Attorney General here in Missouri. You're running against our current Attorney General, Andrew Bailey. He was appointed to this job. I know you've said here before that you think that the voters deserve to have an opportunity to vote someone into this position. And from what I'm seeing right now, you seem to be gaining on Attorney General Andrew Bailey. And obviously, you don't want to get cocky just yet, but are you feeling fairly confident about where you're at in this position in the Republican primary?
Yeah, there was a poll that came out about a week ago that shows us a point off the margin of error. We feel as though things are really breaking our way as we get around the state. Conservative grassroots are fired up. They're ready to take on Jefferson City. Really, wherever we go, we see just this surge of support coming at exactly the right time. I think we're going to have a great July, and I think we're going to have a great night on August 6th. But yeah, without getting cocky, we feel confident about where we are in this race. We think we have the resources in the ground game to compete effectively. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I mean, everywhere we go, we're just seeing these great, fired up conservatives who are ready to take our state back.
Yeah, I got word the other day that you won over at least one vote in Peculiar, Missouri, where I was raised on a horse farm out on J Highway. And a gentleman by the name of John David Peterson has requested me to ask from you a yard sign so that he can put it out at Stonegate Farm and Nursery. So my dad was fairly impressed with you. We're hoping we might be able to get a yard sign out there if that's possible.
Yeah, we had a great event with some outstanding conservatives in Western Missouri the other night. It was great to meet your father. The problem we have with the yard signs right now is we can't keep them in stock. We keep reordering them, but we'll go to events and we'll give out 50 or 60 yard signs. I mean, everyone is getting on the train. That's a good problem to have. We also have 4x8s going up around the state. It's fun to drive around the state and see our materials, see our signs up really wherever we go. So again, we're excited about the run, and it was great to meet your dad. He seems like just an awesome guy, obviously deeply committed to a lot of the principles that we share. So that was a fun event, and we've got a lot more coming. We're down in Springfield tonight.
Absolutely. He's my greatest inspiration. I wouldn't be the man I am today without him. Will, hey, congrats on all of the success so far. Looks like you're gaining and surging at just the right time. We wish you the best of luck. Congratulations on that Supreme Court win yesterday. That is massive. Looks like it's fairly smooth sailing. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. You know, they say if imitation is the greatest form of flattery, then Joe Biden painting his face orange today must mean that you guys are feeling very flattered. Will, congrats. Have a great day, and we'll see you again on the campaign trail.
Yep, great talking to you, Austin. Have a good one.
Thanks very much. Give him a round of applause. Joni Rankin says, Will has my vote. Glad to hear it, Joni. Hey, congratulations to Will Scharf. That's a big one. We're going to have a great conversation with two more guests today. It is Tuesday the 2nd. We don't normally start the Wake Up America show with guests, but to squeeze in an awesome interview like that, I had to do it. Will Scharf, Donald Trump's attorney, fellow Missourian, running for attorney general. It's just too good. It's just too juicy. You got to get those interviews. Levin214, he donated $10 as well. $15 raised towards the $60 goal. You love to see it. Can
you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise.
Money-wise.
Please.
Can you
please.
suck it?
What? If you'd like to see today's bonus content mini documentary instead of watching commercials, make sure you do get those Rumble Rant donations in or YouTube super chats. Or what I recommend is that you head to forlibertyshop.com, the ultimate Liberty superstore where eagles dare. At forlibertyshop.com, if you make a purchase anytime within the next 2 hours during the live Wake Up America show, then all of the purchases count towards the $60 total for you to be able to unlock the bonus content. Our mini documentaries are a smash hit. Been doing them for about 3 months so far, and we've unlocked every single one. So pat yourselves on the back. You're helping to fund the Wake Up America show, helping us to continue to stay strong. How would you feel if the Wake Up America show just one day we said, you know what, we can't do it anymore, we can't afford it, it's too expensive? I think you guys would be like, no, right? God! That would be awful.
God, please, no! No!
I know. All right,
no!
Calm down, Michael Scott.
No!
I know how you'd feel. So it's great to see all of the financial support that we're getting from viewers and listeners around the country. We're grateful for that. Even up there in Canada, Bruce Burtwhistle, for example, big supporter of the show. We thank you very much, especially all of our monthly supporters. We're going to speak to Camelia Peterson live at 8 a.m. Central Time. Did you see Dr. Jill Biden's cover on Vogue magazine the day after Joe Biden's awful debate performance? It struck me as being in poor taste. We'll talk about that with Camelia as well as a million other things. And we've got Angela McArdle. She's the chair of the Libertarian National Committee. I want to get her reaction to the presidential debate from last Thursday, as well as the reaction that she had to the immunity case on the Supreme Court yesterday. But seeing as how this is a show that really loves to work with the media, I am going to now go ahead and, you know how I usually have like a billion clips on the show, you know, because I stay up late every night. I got a million billion clips and media to share with you, but I knew that there was something I had forgotten before I started. And now I have done it. So let's pull it up. I saw this here. Mighty Megatron says, "Hey AP, are you letting the hair coloring wear out?" Yes. Say hello to Au Naturel, baby. Cecilia H says, Jill Biden, poor taste, color me shocked. JJ4884, hoping for the Make Camellia blush game. Yes, that would be fun. I did put a story in that Camellia might not have seen yet. And it is in there. That is a Make Camellia blush story. So if she decides to read the rundown and find that story that wasn't in there last night, but I snuck in there this morning, then we will be able to play Make Camellia blush. I just saw this yesterday. In 2011, and we just answered this question with Will Scharf. President Obama assassinated Anwar al-Awlaki. Thank you, Nelson, for the donation. Thank you, guys. I love Cecilia. I love JJ4884. Talking about the al-Awlaki thing, the president can now assassinate you officially. President can go on a 48-year crime spree and retire from public life, according to Ellie NYC. So this is justice correspondent at The Nation. Typical leftists over what happened yesterday. This has nothing to do with the Supreme Court decision. This is just a clip of Clarence Thomas that I found quite inspiring, and allow me to share it with you.
You know, you can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself. And I think you've got to be comfortable with that.
You love to see it. Thank you, Clary. Donald Trump posted this, no caption needed. Have you guys noticed that Joe Biden in his speech yesterday was a different shade, different hue? Look at this. Imitation, most sincere, most sincere form of flattery. There it is. Yes, the music, LOL, says my brother Justin. Good morning, Justin. Hope you enjoyed your jog this morning. Here's Joe Biden yesterday looking a slightly darker shade of orange, reacting to the Supreme Court decision. Take a listen.
I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today. Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote.
Pause for just a moment. I think I understood what he said. Maybe he didn't understand what he said, but I want to hear that one more time.
I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today.
Okay.
Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law.
A king above the law.
With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote.
You just don't act like you're so outraged. You know why the Democrats are mad is because they're not going to be able to have the trial of the century before the election. That's why, duh. Our democracy. Justice is now the king of
every use of official power.
It's not official power, it's official power. And it's not just a one-off because he does it twice.
The president is now a king above the law.
He's struggling there. The Democrats are still coming up with excuses for Joe Biden's horrible debate performance. Take a listen.
Look, I think they've got to do a lot of stuff. They've got to get him out there this week. He has to show people.
Pause before we start this clip here with Rep. Debbie Dingell. Don't you think if your name was Dingell and you were running for office, you'd want to change your name? Can you, just imagine what it must have been like growing up. What's up, Rep. Dingell? Dingle dangle, dingleberry. I mean, come on.
That he is
Too many
wrong.
good jokes.
They should have prepared us for a raspy voice on Thursday night, to be perfectly frank. And
she's complaining that the Democrats didn't prepare them, that the campaign didn't tell people like Rep. Dingle that they should have been prepared for Joe Biden to slur. She should have been prepared. They should have told them that there was going on, because nobody else could see it in the country that this was going on. They should have been prepared.
nobody did. So one interview isn't going to fix this either. So I think it's just really important. Only one person can do this, and that's Joe Biden, though I think the campaign's got to listen to people. And by the way, I think the campaign needs to listen to us.
And what's funny is that Courtney Conover in the chat says, I hope that's not her married name, LOL. That's a situation in which you don't change it. It's funny because I just assume that if she's a Democrat, that they don't change their name. They don't take their husband's names because they want their husbands to be cuckolded. But yeah, if she took her husband's name Dingle, that might be one of the only situations I could see where you'd be like, listen, husband, honey, listen, I'm an attorney in the state of Pennsylvania. I'm running for higher office. I love you dearly. I'll take your name, but I'm just not going to use it. Right. Thank you, Quest, and Courtney for the super chat, the Rumble rants. We appreciate that very much. Okay, Debbie Tony Martinez has the scoop, says Debbie was the lobbyist for Ford and married then Rep. John Dingle. And when John passed, she took his seat. Why is that so common that goes on? And Tony, I know you liked my comment about Mel Carnahan the other day, which we'll talk about with Camellia, and we talk about Jill Biden later. Oh, and yes, this is Memology 101.
The people who looked at those answers from both
Megatron, you're right. It is Memology, by the way. Thank you. Credit to Memology for this video.
The conclusion that on substance, Joe Biden was the winner far and away. But people looking at television, not paying much attention to anything else but how they look, will go with style. And Joe Biden has never been a show horse.
What?
When you've been running the country, as he has been for 3.5 years, faced with all of the issues that he is faced with, you don't have time to set aside and make up stories about the past or to forget about what's going on around you. You've got to face your job, and he's been doing that. And so for him to go into preparation, and what I've been calling this a classic example of preparation overload. I just think that there should have been much less preparation for this debate and much more activism in his job.
You know what's funny about that is that can relate, actually. So I think I participated in like 3 major presidential debates that were televised. There was, when I ran in 2016, there was the John Stossel Fox Business televised debate. There was the Glenn Beck's, moderated by Penn Jillette, the Blaze debate. And then there was the C-SPAN debate. There were other debates, but they weren't televised like those 3. And what I realized, I mean, obviously the first major televised debate on John Stossel's show, I was wicked nervous. So I did over prepare and I had all these note cards and things. But what I had realized by the end of the debate is that studying was enough. I didn't need all of the note cards. You never know what questions there are going to be. And that I was actually far better off just trusting my gut and not trying to over prepare. So by the time I got to the second and third debates, I had my opening statement, I had my closing statement. But other than that, just a little bit of studying up on current affairs, because you just never know what they're going to talk about anyway. You have to be ready. Here's the thing. If you're going to run for president of the United States, if you're going to run for such a high office and expect to have any traction whatsoever or to be taken seriously, then you need to be able to, you don't need 10 days of debate or 7 days, whatever the case was for Joe Biden. If you have to prepare for an entire week, it's because something's wrong. It's because they don't think that he's able to perform. And if, quite frankly, if you're not able to perform in a debate, if you need a week for a debate, for a simple hour, 2-hour debate, then you're not prepared to do it. And that was the situation I found myself in, that after that first debate that I did in 2016, the other two debates, I just went with my gut. I just went with my heart because I knew the material. I knew what I believed. I knew what the issues were. That's why I ran, because I felt like I could do a good job. It wasn't just some, I'm just showboating here. I felt like I could represent the ideas of liberty well in a principled manner to the American people, because I trusted in myself and I believed in myself. And it's quite clear that Joe Biden, obviously, and his team do not believe in him to be able to have the capacity to do this. And they're definitely showing this now with what they're saying about his capabilities. What are we hearing from these people? I mean, yes, you've got Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn and many others who are out there sort of running interference and doing what they can for him. That's normal. That's natural. But then, of course, you see other Democrats saying very quite clearly they don't think that he's capable of doing this. So anyway, let's continue. Clyburn says he hasn't heard a single person express anything negative about Joe's debate. Wow, that guy is high on his own supply there.
Congressman Clyburn, since you are there in Wisconsin and doing lots of events, tell me the truth. What are you hearing from people on the ground?
Almost total, and I'm saying almost because I have not heard a single person express anything negative. All they're saying to us is keep Joe Biden moving forward.
Dude, that guy is high.
It is now allow the president to stand above the law, and Joe Biden's going to stand in the middle of that. He's going to build a better and stronger economy.
I get all
so that people can continue to work hard.
Even Anderson Cooper is like feeling back to the wall, like he has to actually do some journalism at this point.
So I get all that.
You're making a good case. Y'all keep dismissing.
No, because 72% of voters said that Biden lacks the mental. 72% of voters said Biden lacks the mental health for the presidency after the debate. That's up from 65% before the debate and 36% in June of 2020. That's
Anderson Cooper doing accidental journalism. Oops. CNN just keeps accidentally doing journalism. All right, so this is a poll from the New York Times and CBS News in 2020 of June. The American people were asked this question about whether or not they thought that Joe Biden was too old, whether he lacked the mental health to do the job. In 2020, right, 4 years ago, only 36% of people said this. In 2024, before the debate, they ran this poll again. It was 65%. Well over half of the American people believe Joe Biden can't do it. After the debate, they ran it again. 2024, post-debate, 72%. And here's Anderson Cooper accidentally doing journalism on this.
It's obviously, I would think, a huge concern for you.
Yeah.
It is not honest to say that this is just one night. There have been moments like this that people have seen in front of the cameras and other moments but with cameras not there. Just 2 weeks ago, let me just show this clip. There was another moment like this, not just a senior losing a train of thought, but something else going on. Here he is. It was in an event about immigration. He tries to introduce DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and there's some sort of glitch. I don't know what it is. Let's roll that tape.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way.
Oh my God. Like that is, yeah, that's a little bit more than a glitch right there. Hold on one more time there. I love that it's CNN, accidental journalism at CNN.
He tries to introduce.
Remember last week when they were calling this a cheap fake? Remember all these videos that were coming out just 2 weeks ago, and White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre comes out and calls these cheap fakes? That all these videos, these are edited videos. of us. These are edited videos. The Republicans are editing these videos to make it look worse than it actually is. Now CNN is playing the same videos that the Republicans were playing of Joe Biden, that all the other mainstream news organizations were playing. And now all of a sudden we have to accept, we can believe our lying eyes now because the Democrats are telling us, okay, maybe your eyes weren't lying the whole time. Here we go.
DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and there's some sort of glitch. I don't know what it is. Let's roll that tape.
Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding.
Now, what's hilarious is that when you watch Senator Chuck Schumer in the back, and then here's Mayorkas over here on the right, is that while Joe Biden is glitching out, they don't react to it all whatsoever. These people are used to seeing this. All right. They're not. Do you remember when Mitch McConnell froze last year? And you could actually see the reaction on people's faces when Mitch McConnell froze in front of the cameras. And the people who were behind him actually were kind of like, oh, something's wrong. This is concerning. These are people who they've seen this before, or they're trained to know that it's coming, and they're not reacting like normal human beings would. Like, are you okay, Grandpa? Like, do you need some help?
Secretary, I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas.
I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
That doesn't trouble me at all, Jake.
Oh my God. It doesn't trouble them at all. It doesn't trouble them. Thank you to Memology. Thank you to Memology 101 for the video. Over on YouTube, we appreciate that. There we go. Hold on. Here, what's the last part here? Hold on.
Don't worry. They'll be able to handle it.
The old man is always sleeping. Is he all right?
Normally, he's dead. But he'll wake up when the time is right.
Thank you, Memology. Great video. Oh, funny stuff. I love this tweet yesterday from Mostly Peaceful Memes. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the orange man. There he is. Joe Biden looking very orange. The great response to this. He looks like a senile Oompa Loompa. I like this one that puts the Trump hair on there with the orange face. Somebody's got the color wheel up there next to Joe Biden's face there, seeing the shades of orange right there. Yes, I'm orange now, Jack. Orange man bad. Now is the orange man bad. Now we realize the orange man was good. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Oh, well, thank you. Are you enjoying the show so far? Don't forget to click that like button. We'd be grateful to have you join us for the regular show schedule. The Wake Up America show streams live every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour tour de force of economic freedom, personal liberty. Sometimes we're silly, sometimes we're serious, but we're always having a good time. So if you're saying to yourself, I need something to kind of get my day started, make me a part of your regular schedule so that when you're listening in the morning, you're finding out what's happening in the world. You're hearing interviews like the one that I did with Donald Trump's attorney, Will Scharf. That was earlier on. If you missed that one, you're definitely going to want to rewind and go back and watch that, where we talked about his breakdown of the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on Donald Trump's immunity case. Tons of good information there, and you're not going to find that kind of information on most other morning liberty talk shows. The Wake Up America show is a 5-day-a-week, 2-hour talk show that streams live here on Rumble, as well as many other platforms as well. If you're joining us here on Rumble for the very first time today, and it looks like many of you are, it's nice to see over 500 people joining us live today. Hello, Rumblers. do click that follow button right now before you forget. But at a minimum, if you've got your hands dirty or tied doing something else and you don't want to touch your phone, I understand. Just make sure that before you leave, you do click that follow button on the stream so that you can find us easily tomorrow, because the Rumble stream is at AP for Liberty. That's AP, the number 4. AP for Liberty, the number 4. So if you click follow, then you'll be able to find me at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. But we are streaming on multiple platforms as well. I see we've got 581 people over on X.com. Hey, Xers, raise your hands. I see you back there. You guys are competing. 581 on X, 521 over on Rumble, and you have maybe a dozen on the other platforms. So with our powers combined, we are over 1,000 people strong this morning. Oh, God, it's just making me feel like I need to. Oh, my God. Wait.
Do not come.
What?
Do not knock.
What? Oh, my God. Oh, yes. Thank you very much for that. Looks like our buddy John Rail got himself some delicious Founding Flavors coffee. See, John is a monthly subscriber to the Wake Up America show. He's a monthly supporter. So he is automatically entered to win, like everybody else, prizes and gifts from apforlibertyshop.com. So yesterday, he was the winner of the monthly drawing. So I gave him a $50 gift certificate to apforlibertyshop.com. He just went and bought himself a couple of boxes of Founding Flavors coffee, and he got them for free. Congrats, John. Hope you enjoy them. But since they were free, they don't count towards the total to unlock today's bonus content. Instead of watching commercials before I bring Camelia Peterson on here in about 20 minutes, and then have Angela McArdle of the Libertarian Party at 8:30, when I transition to guests, I have to take little breaks because I got to go get them on Zoom and bring them in here because I'm the producer of the show as well as the talent. And I need like a few minute breaks. So rather than watch boring commercials, wouldn't you rather watch a fun mini documentary that I produced special for you today? I think you would. So make those Rumble Rant donations. Let's see where we're at so far and how much we've raised. It looks like we've raised 10, 15, 25, 35, 36 or 7, 38, $39 raised so far. All we got to raise is $21 more. So if you'd like to try some Founding Flavors coffee, head to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4. Head to forlibertyshop.com, and you guys can buy yourself some delicious coffee. That way you guys can unlock the bonus content because purchases, of course, count towards the total. I also want to remind you that Rumble has an exclusive apparel shop. They just dropped. So they're now offering a 20% off all purchases in the Rumble store with the discount code DROP20, DROP 20. If you want to support the brand that is fighting for free speech and fighting for our First Amendment, this is the best way to do it. They have tees, sweaters, hats, and all kinds of good stuff. Go to rumble.store and make sure to enter DROP20 as the promo code to get 20% off your entire order. If you've got a chance to write this down right now so you won't forget it in case you need to go later, you go to rumble.store. That's right, rumble.store, and DROP20, DROP20 gets you that 20% discount. I've got an awesome Rumble hat that I love wearing around town, and whenever I see my Republican buddies here in Jefferson City wearing my Rumble hat, they're always like, yeah. So get yourself some sweet Rumble merch. You could be the talk of the town. It's the tits, Jefferson City, here at rumble.store. Thank you very much to Rumble for that ad. We appreciate you very much, and you guys have a wonderful day. We love Rumble. Rumble. New York Post cover sent to me by Camelia Peterson. This is making me laugh. Thank you, Camelia. You are genius. Thank you for sending this to me. Here it is. The New York Post cover today. Vague. I love the New York Post. Read it every day. There are 3 periodicals that I read every day. 1, the New York Post. 2, the Wall Street Journal, and 3, it used to be Reason Magazine, but it's probably not so much. You know what I need to do? I'll just, show prep. New York Post, and The Blaze. Those are the ones that I read every day. It used to be Reason Magazine, but they've kind of gone off the rails these days. But anyways, New York Post cover, vague. We're going to talk to Camellia about Jill Biden's cover on Vogue magazine. As Jill swans for Vogue, here's the cover that Biden should have done. Yes, Jill Biden answers questions for her husband. 5 ways to explain away a bad night, or hot for fall, rubber sole shoes, how to beat Medicare, and best activities between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Very funny. Thank you to Camellia for that one. Yes. Orange Man bad or Orange Man good? I love this meme here. Shows Obi-Wan Kenobi, a Ewan McGregor version, where Joe Biden on the left, and then here he is orange on the right, and Obi-Wan says, "You have become the very thing you swore to destroy." Yes. Very good. Very good. Oh, that's a story I cannot wait to share with you guys, but you'll have to wait until a little bit later. Wait a minute. Are you guys even seeing what I'm seeing on the screen? Oh, you're not, actually. You're not seeing the screen that I'm seeing. Okay. You saw this one. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard on Fox News talking about Joe Biden's post-debate ad.
Remember, Jason, that they didn't really have a Democratic primary at all. They didn't give Democrat voters in that primary an option. But here we find ourselves as we see all of this inner squabbling happening amongst Democrats and influential people in the Democratic sphere about whether or not Joe Biden should remain the nominee or whether they should swap him out. And you look at why this infighting is happening. It's because they don't really care about what's best for the country. Quite frankly, when you look at it, really, they don't really care about Joe Biden. This isn't about loyalty to Joe Biden. They're trying to figure out how best they can stay in power. So they're trying to figure out, is Joe Biden that winning horse, or do they need to put him out to pasture and find someone else that they believe can win, who will also be a figurehead that they can be the puppet masters for and control. So you pointed out Jill and Hunter Biden, but really I think there's something far more serious going on here about who's really in control. Clearly, Joe Biden showed the country in the debate that he is incapable of being the president and commander-in-chief, clearly is not calling the shots. So we should all be asking who is really calling the shots, and it's what we know to be the deep state. It's those who are in unelected positions, whether they be political figures, the military-industrial complex, the national security state, their friends in the propaganda media, everyone who gets their power by knowing that they can control this figurehead, which is why they're doing all they can to destroy Trump, because they know that he will expose them and dismantle their power.
Good stuff. I did see that you guys said that the soundboard was a little bit garbled. I just reset it. Tell me if this sound effect sounds good for you guys. Good? Let me know. Appreciate that very much. We've got about 12 minutes until we get Camellia Peterson on the show. If you'd like to watch our mini documentary, we are $21 away, or we were $21 away until somebody just went to forlibertyshop.com and got themselves some delicious coffee. I see you out there, Andy. Sexy man. Thanks, bud. Appreciate that. So now you guys get to watch the mini documentary when Camellia comes on. We'll hear from Angela McArdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party, at 8:30 a.m. Central Time as well. So we've got 2 great guests back to back. And I really am hoping that we have time to share with you. This is the kind of news that is really exciting to me and will impact you, but I think it's going to be hard for you to get excited for it up front. So I'm going to do everything in my power to get you excited about it, this news story that I'm going to share with you at the end of the show. So make sure that you stick around after Angela McArdle, because before we leave today, I have a video to share with you from the Wall Street Journal about some news about something that's coming to the United States that my wife and I have been talking about now for a year. And just sort of pining away, saying to ourselves, oh, please, oh, if only we had this in the United States. Oh, if only we could enjoy this here. I know you're going to be excited about it. And if you love, well, I don't want to give it away too much. So maybe I should just pause. But let me just say, definitely stick around until the end of the show when I share with you some news, some good news about something that's coming to the United States that you especially if you are a man or a woman or even a Zer, they, them, of exquisite taste, then you're going to love that news. So stick around after Angela McArdle at 8:30 a.m. Central Time to get the news of something big that's coming to the United States. When I saw it yesterday, I was almost squealing, almost girlishly squealing to my wife last night as I saw the news. It's good stuff. No, it's not avian flu quest. Thank you. Good morning, Kadena Country 88. First time joining us on the show. Nice to see you. Says you like the show so far. When is the show on air? Well, I'm so glad you asked. What a great question. And welcome, by the way. The Wake Up America show streams live Mondays through Fridays from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour tour de force of economic freedom and personal liberty. We have incredible guests, incredible content. Some of it's serious, some of it's silly. We're always having a good time and we're staying informed. Kadena, if you missed the interview that I did earlier on the show, you definitely want to go back and watch it. Donald Trump's attorney, Will Scharf, was on with us earlier today, and he was reacting to the Supreme Court case that he argued, by the way, that won the president's case when it comes to immunity. And he was also talking to us a little bit about his campaign for attorney general here in the state of Missouri. It was a great interview, packed with good information there. So if you missed that, definitely check it out. My interview with Camelia that's coming up here in less than 10 minutes. We're going to talk about Jill Biden on the cover of Vogue magazine. And I also have another topic with Camelia that we're going to pivot to, hopefully, that I can use to make her blush and make you laugh. And at 8:30 a.m., the chair of the Libertarian National Committee, Angela McArdle, will be joining us to give her reaction to Joe Biden's debate performance, as well as her take on that Supreme Court case. So big guests, big interviews, big topics, 5 days a week, 2 hours in the morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So we hope that you'll click follow on the stream and come back and join us regularly. And again, welcome to the show. Everybody say hi to Kadena. Girl from Kadena, da 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 da, la bum ba da 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 da. What's next on the show before Camelia? I had another video to show you. Oh, Jake Tapper here.
Pattern
Jake
discernible.
Tapper. Jake Tapper, you know, the gaslighter, the people who've been gaslighting us in the media for weeks, you know, telling us Joe Biden's fine, there's nothing to see here, these are all deep fakes, etc. Take a listen to this.
Pattern of Democratic officials seemingly trying to convince you, the public, to not believe what you saw and what you heard with your eyes and with your ears on Thursday night. Democratic officials have tried to spin this in many ways. They said President Biden just had a cold. They said it was just one off night, akin to when President Obama in 2012 was rusty and seemed a little huffy. But behind the scenes, make no mistake, most Democratic officials witnessed the same shocking spectacle that you did. The difficulty that the presumptive Democratic nominee, the current president of the United States, had just articulating his...
See, now that they want to act like they're on our side, right? Now that they can't gaslight and lie and defame us for saying what we knew what was going on, now that they know that they can't hide behind their veil of lies, they want to pretend like they're on our side now and start calling out the Democrats. Oh, we can't believe that they've been doing this to us for so long. You were complicit, Jake Tapper. You were helping them do it. And now you're on our side. This is a bunch of horse apples, if you will. It's malarkey, as Joe Biden might say.
Basic thoughts during the 90 minutes of the debate. With all due respect, it is not honest to say that this is just one night. There have been moments like this that people have seen in front of the cameras.
And you guys weren't reporting on it, Jake Tapper.
And other moments, but with...
Oh, okay, please. All right, next video.
We continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Yeah, thank you.
ensure that we continue to.
I mean, what do you got to say to something like that? President Biden, acting within the scope of his official duties, could dispatch the military to take out the conservative justices on the court, says Representative Zoe Lofgren. Like, the Democrats are now actively calling for the assassination of the former president and the murder of Supreme Court justices. This is a Democratic representative.
I guess, theoretically, President Biden, acting within the scope of his official duties, could dispatch the military to take out the conservative justices on the court. And
Jesus, what is wrong with these people? And of course, the former White House press secretary had this to say.
So my former boss, Barack Obama, my boss before Joe Biden, that is, tweeted on Friday about the debate, where he basically acknowledged bad debates happen. I know, personally. And he does, because his first debate in 2012, when he was running for re-election, was bad. He still went on to win the presidency. It's entirely different circumstances, but I thought the self-reference was kind of interesting. The second thing he does in this tweet is he lays out and reminds people of the choice between a guy who's been fighting for working people his whole life and a guy who's fighting for himself. That is ultimately what the election is about. And the third thing he does in the tweet is remind people that it's not just about one debate, bad debate performance. It's a similar message to the one, by the way, that Governor Gavin Newsom has been using and others. I think it's pretty effective messaging for people who want to stick by Joe Biden. A lot of people are. Obama's obviously a significant player in the party. Gavin Newsom is a significant player in the party. It needs to be a lot more than that. Obviously, you need the American people, the majority of them, to vote for you. But I thought the messaging in the Obama tweet was particularly good.
That was Jen Psaki, former White House press secretary. Oh my God, we've got so much more fun show to go. You've only just hit the first hour, and I'm gonna go get Camelia. She's gonna talk about the cover of Vogue magazine featuring Dr. quote unquote Jill Biden, and I've also got a topic for her that's gonna make her maybe squirm just a little bit. We like to play Make Camelia Blush. If we have time, we'll get to it. We'll talk to her about that. Also, a little bit of political intrigue going on here in the state of Missouri. The good news is you guys don't have to watch commercials now. You get to enjoy the bonus content that I produced, a mini documentary that is fascinating, it's fun, it's frightening how amazing the Wake Up America show is. 2 hours of incredible content right here for you, 5 days a week. Enjoy. We'll be right back with Camelia on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
America show considers the lesser-known wars that shaped the American Republic. Today, we look at the circumstances surrounding the Philippine-American War, taken from the Bill of Rights Institute. The late 19th century saw a surge in American expansionism into the Pacific, driven by industrial wealth, trade ambitions, and a belief in cultural superiority. This new manifest destiny applied social Darwinism to justify racial and cultural dominance. Interest in Chinese trade led to several crises over Pacific Island bases, essential for refueling steam vessels. American intervention in Hawaii's Civil War led to its annexation in 1898. The declining Spanish Empire retained control over Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. A worldwide depression and a high American tariff on Cuban sugar intensified tensions in Cuba, leading to rebellion against Spanish rule. President McKinley initially opposed war, but after the USS Maine sank, he demanded a declaration of war against Spain. Theodore Roosevelt's actions ensured the first shots were fired in the Philippines. Commodore George Dewey was ordered to destroy the Spanish Pacific Squadron in Manila Bay, leading to a decisive American victory with minimal casualties. Dewey's squadron easily defeated the outdated Spanish fleet, and after further bombardment, American Marines completed the destruction of Spanish defenses. Reinforcements arrived in June, and by then, other powerful nations had shown interest in the Philippines. Another Spanish flotilla was destroyed in Santiago de Cuba, leading to Spain's surrender after 10 weeks of fighting. The U.S. demanded harsh treaty terms, resulting in Spain surrendering Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Manila. Formal peace talks began in Paris. Expansionists dominated the U.S. delegation, advocating for keeping the Philippines as a base for trade and influence. Despite public support, an anti-imperialist movement argued that colonialism was un-American. The Treaty of Paris was approved by a narrow margin. General Emilio Aguinaldo led a Filipino nationalist revolt, believing the U.S. supported their independence. However, he realized the U.S. intended to occupy the Philippines. Aguinaldo declared an independent republic, but tensions led to the Philippine-American War. Filipinos saw the conflict as a war against foreign occupation, while Americans viewed it as an insurrection. The war was brutal, with Filipinos resorting to guerrilla tactics and Americans employing harsh pacification methods, leading to significant civilian deaths. Aguinaldo's capture in 1901 weakened the Filipino resistance. By 1902, over 20,000 Filipino fighters and 4,200 American soldiers had died. Civilian deaths due to war-related disease and starvation were estimated to be around 200,000, though this remains controversial. The annexation and subsequent guerrilla war sparked a debate over American imperialism. Many Americans opposed the colonial role, leading to a bitter political debate. The U.S. extended its military power and trade interests into the Pacific, becoming a global power. The Philippines finally achieved independence on July 4, 1946, after forming an alliance with the U.S. during World War II to resist Japanese occupation. The path to independence was long and fraught with conflict, but it eventually led to a close partnership. The expansionist fervor of the late 19th century led to U.S. acquisitions in the Pacific and the Caribbean, but not all movements were aligned with these goals. The anti-imperialist sentiment highlighted the internal divisions over America's global role. Social Darwinism provided a pseudo-scientific justification for colonial domination, influencing American policies during the Philippine-American War. It asserted racial superiority and supported imperialism, shaping the conflict's ideological backdrop. The immediate context of the Philippine-American War was Spain's defeat in the Spanish-American War. This set the stage for America's involvement in the Philippines, transitioning from liberators to occupiers, sparking resistance from Filipino nationalists. The Filipino revolt against American governance began after Filipino rebels and the American military defeated the Spanish. Emilio Aguinaldo's return to lead the revolt against Spain eventually turned into a struggle against American occupation.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. You guys in a good mood? Wow, the first hour has just been an absolute killer. And the numbers just continue to rise, which means that I think you guys are sticking around and you love to see it. Don't forget, though, click that like button on the stream. And if you click the follow button, it makes it easier for you to find us when we do the show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And we'd be glad to have you join us on the regs. The front page of the New York Post, vague, it reads, lampooning Dr. Jill Biden, I use the term loosely, Dr. Jill Biden's appearance on the cover of Vogue magazine, and Joe Biden looking, well, terrified, like many dementia patients do. The headline reads, as Jill swans for Vogue, here's the cover that Biden should have done. Jill Biden answers questions for her husband. Joining us now is someone who doesn't have a husband to answer questions for, Camelia Peterson. She's single, gentlemen. Good morning, Camelia. How are you doing, CJ?
Good morning. We're starting this off with the blush portion, right? Is that it?
No, but if we have time, we'll get to that story a little bit later. I know people are rubbing their hands together, waiting. Camelia, I saw that cover of Vogue. It was probably prepared before the debate disaster, but the timing couldn't have been worse.
Right.
What was your reaction to this?
And it was done, I think, probably months ago. And Jill Biden has been on the cover of Vogue before. But it is just, especially with everything that has happened with her husband, even in just the last year, it just seems very out of touch. It's like it displays this sort of dichotomy and this contrast between the two of them, right? You see Biden out here looking frail and feeble, and then you see, Jill Biden trying to look like a model on the cover of Vogue. So it does feel very out of touch. And I don't, even if it had come out before the debate, I think it still would have appeared to be in bad taste.
Well, the headline on the Vogue cover says, "We will decide our future." Oh, really? We really? And I mean, listen, we all know like the old stereotypes of like the overbearing wives and stuff like this. But sometimes I wish first ladies would shut their goddamn mouths, because you are not the president and nobody elected you, and you have one job and one job alone. And it is not telling the president what to do. You are not democratically elected. And I appreciate that you go out there and you get the school lunches, but and I would say the same thing if it was if the first man or whatever, first gentleman was a man. Shut up. Nobody elected you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is when you think back to the roles that different first ladies have played, have there been some that have been a little bit more proactive like Jill has been? Yes, but they're not the majority. I mean, I think, a first lady, I think her job is she's there, first of all, to make her husband look good. She's there to be a complement to him. And that means that she should also conduct herself with grace and have some style. And so I think when I think of first ladies, I think that Melania Trump did a wonderful job with that. Yes. I think that Laura Bush, I don't care what people think about George Bush, but I think Laura Bush was a lovely first lady and very gracious. And, so was first Barbara. Ladies have. Yes, Barbara was too, right. And so I think that there's first ladies have always had some kind of cause or something that they've done, something that they've championed. They've kind of always gone around the country and done different things. But it's been more, it's not been on like the policy end of things per se, right?
Well, versus Hillary Clinton, who's like, elbowing her way in there, like, let's talk about health care. Like, look out, Bill. Yeah. I've got to, have you noticed this about Democrat women? They just can't seem to stay in their lane.
Yeah. Well, and have you seen the picture has been going around again? And when I first looked at it, I thought, is this current? I was like, because that's really bad looking, but it was a tweet from like 3 years ago. And it was Jill Biden sitting at a desk and, signing something or writing something and something about preparing for the G7 summit or something like that. But it made it kind of look like she was in charge, right? I mean, and that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, Justin, my brother over in the chat, Peter's JJ, reminds us of this history lesson, saying Harriet Lane was the first first lady that operated in the role of a hostess, but she wasn't a wife. She was James Buchanan's niece because he was a gay. Oh, are we really going to go down the whole President
don't
James
say
Buchanan
that out loud.
Gay?
People don't want to admit that there might be those possibilities.
People said that Barack Obama was our first gay president, but it was actually James Buchanan. The blushing.
I never heard the conspiracy about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama in that sense until literally a year ago, and I was like,
you haven't heard the Big Mike rumor until then?
No, I was like, I'm sitting here at a table of ladies that are all over the age of 60, and there's all this chatter going on. I'm telling you, I heard more conspiracy theories sitting at that table than I ever have in my life, and that was one of them. And I was just like, what?
When I used to be a member of the Libertarian Party, I would always like roll my eyes because it was always conspiracy stuff everywhere I went. And then I thought I'd join the Republican Party and it'd just be like boring policy. But like, I'm gonna be real. Like my Republican meetings, they've got just as many conspiracy theories as the Libertarians do. I wonder what the Democrats are like. I'm never going to join them, but it would be interesting to find out. That's funny. All right, so. Big Mike. Oh yeah, it was. You must not keep up on your celebrity gossip then, Camelia, because I think it was Joan Rivers who broke the news that Michelle Obama was actually Big Mike, and that.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, listen, it's not me. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying Joan Rivers reported it that Michelle Obama was a man, and so if Joan Rivers reports it, well then it must be legit.
Of course. Sure.
Anyway, I'm just making some jokes. Everybody lighten up. I see in the chat they're starting to get inflamed. Okay, put some hemorrhoid cream on it. And let's continue to have this discussion here about Dr. Jill Biden. A lot of people say that she's the one in charge of everything here, that she will help make the decision about whether or not Biden will continue to run. But my guess is that this shadowy cabal behind President Biden, the people who have been running things this entire time, here's my conspiracy theory. He hasn't been in charge for a very long time, Camelia. And it's the people who are behind him. I mean, you saw Hunter Biden, for example, apparently is the number one guy pushing him to stay in the race. And we all know why, right? So they can cover his, naked butt. But there's something going on more than just Dr. Jill Biden. It's going to be more than her who makes this decision. What do you think?
Oh, I think so, because I think if it were just up to her, I'm not sure. I mean, does she have enough political power and clout to, put her foot down and make that call? I think there are certainly other people that are behind the scenes that are really directing a lot of what is happening. A year ago, I thought there's no way, probably more than a year ago, I thought there's no way that he will make it to the primary, let alone even the beginning of the year. He has looked this frail and ill for a very long time now. And so it's unfathomable to me that he would even look at another 4 years, because the only alternative is if they want to let him, die in office, which I don't know. I don't understand the rationale behind it. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually end up replacing him, because the media seems to be on that bandwagon now, right?
Yeah,
so they're talking about that too. But we have to remember, they have a little while to work this out, because their convention is not until mid-August.
And I've heard some of the people saying, oh, it's too late because you can't file to get on the ballot. But I mean, Camelia, you've been working in politics long enough to know that when it comes to the law, they'll just change the law at the last minute. They'll just do whatever it takes to put the different person's name in the ballot. And you're a student of history. You remember Mel Carnahan?
Yes, I was thinking about that this morning, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, it doesn't matter whose name is, if his name is still on the ballot and he's replaced just because that person's name is not on the ballot, everybody will know. There will be very few people who will go to vote and, not know that Joe Biden is not the person that they're actually voting for.
Do you want to tell our listeners, for those who might be outside of Missouri who don't remember this story, what the Mel Carnahan story was?
Right. So Mel Carnahan he was a senator, right? But he was killed in a plane crash, and they appointed his wife to his position until they had the next election. So there has been talk about whether or not they would do something. I don't think it'll work quite that way for the presidency.
I know, the Democrats every day, they're pounding us over the head, telling us we don't care about democracy. But then when something like that happens, it just doesn't strike me as very democratic that you would just appoint someone who was not elected to a position just because that's their last name. Doesn't strike me as very democratic, but we'll see. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, and I see many thousands of you are this morning, good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. You're watching the Wake Up America show. That lovely lady to my left, your right, is Camelia Peterson, and I am Austin Peterson. We are of no relation, but we are good friends, and she joins us Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 a.m. Central Time to give her take on the news of the day. And we're talking a little bit about Joe Biden's mental health, fitness, and Dr. Jill Biden being on the cover of Vogue magazine while her husband's career appears to be going down in flames. Did this change anybody's minds? Go ahead, Camelia. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't know that it changed anybody's minds. But one of the things that she said in there that was really ironic in that interview was that we don't need more chaos. Okay. That's no matter when you said that, that's not happening. But yes, go ahead. What was your question again?
So you read that story. I imagine that apparently people's minds were not changed much when it came to watching that debate before and after.
Yeah. So, and they did this, it was a little different. They'd done the same poll in May. So after the debate, Trump was up over Biden 47-41 with only 12% undecided. And the undecideds, like gun to your head, pick one. It narrowed 52-48. So, 4 points. When they do add in the factor of RFK Jr., that widens a little bit, and RFK ended up getting 12%. But I mean, the point is like it's the results of that, by the way, didn't really change from when they had asked people that in May. So it really didn't change anybody's minds, although I think maybe the one thing that it might have changed would be support for RFK Jr. But this really reminded me too of the poll that Gallup has been doing for a long time now as part of their questions. And I talk to people about this at the doors all the time, because back in 2003 or 4, when Gallup did this poll about how people identify politically, at the time it was almost nearly equal thirds, 33%, Republican, Democrat, Independent. But fast forward to 2013, 14, in the last like 2 years, the independent part had risen up to 44%. Well, yesterday they released the latest results from that, and we are at a record high for people who identify as independents, and it's up to 41%. And that is so indicative, I think, of where we are politically and culturally. And so I look at that, and then I also look at these results about where people are on the presidency, and it makes me wonder what's going to actually happen in 24, because remember, 22 was like the red wave that wasn't. And so it's interesting, because I've been knocking a lot of doors, and you talk about that 51%, those people in the middle. And I sometimes wonder if they're not the silent majority, so to speak, anymore, because I will talk to people who, if I'm talking to them about, say, a state Senate candidate, they will bring up, well, do they support Trump? These are Republican voters who are either conservative, or we're not you don't have to register for party in our state. So that makes the data a little bit trickier, but you can usually tell if somebody is conservative or at least leans conservative. We have a lot of people that are independents, but I talked to a guy the other day, and he wanted to know about he brought up Trump. And I've had several people bring up, does the candidate support Trump? And we have this conversation about why they don't like Trump. And it's the bombastic behavior and things like that. And so I, like the spin on that, for down ballot candidates, like that's the challenge, is they have to navigate those waters of, some people wanting them to be all or nothing diehard Trump supporters, or like not supporting Trump at all. And, I think the thing, and the way I always approach that is that, they are Trump supporters, but at least the candidates that I support are also statesmen. And so, that to them, how they conduct themselves is a very important value. And I think, so that's what we focus on in finding common ground.
I mean, I'm sort of conflicted on that to some extent, just because the problem is that statesmen have gotten us into this mess. Like the people who conduct themselves appropriately, like Mitt Romney and others, like they behave well, but their politics suck. And so at the end of the day, to some extent, we're left like deciding between people whose politics are great, but their behavior is disconcerting, versus someone who is very polished, very professional, but is selling our Constitution and our rights down the river. You know what I mean?
But I would consider someone like Thomas Massey to, be a statesman. He's principled. I don't think anybody would view him as weak, right? But he doesn't back down from what he stands for, but he also doesn't go around, calling people names. He's no Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though they work together pretty closely. So that's true. I think that there is a balance that can be struck there. Being a statesman doesn't, necessarily have to equal being weak on your principles either.
It's just, it has so far, at least up until this point right now. So anyways, I've got you for another 5 minutes before Angela McArdle comes on. What are you smiling for? What's so funny?
I know it's coming.
What do you know what's coming? Then what is coming? It's another headline that I was reading yesterday, and I thought to myself, what a perfect story to share with our listeners. And Camelia Peterson is the person that should talk about it. The New York Post, in their sex and relationships section, has a headline: the 2 words that will automatically turn women off. And it's not what you think. Let me just read this briefly. The bare minimum that women expect when dating someone has been revealed, and they aren't asking for much. Alicia Bajwani, 32, is a media advisor, and she took to TikTok to ask other women what are their minimum standards for dating. She says she really wanted to get a benchmark on what girlies are accepting as the bare minimum when it comes to dating. The first one is you have to actually ask me on a date. That does not mean hanging out. If you use the words hang out or catch up, I'm immediately icked out and turned off. What's your reaction to that? Is she being realistic, would you say?
You know, in reading through this, and there are a couple of other things I'm sure you'll get to, but my first thought was with women in the workplace and time management and clear communication is a very real issue, right? And so to me, this was kind of, they want those long-term relationships, unlike what a lot of people, try to portray them as, but they also don't want to waste their time. And, maybe that's due to the fact that they're waiting later in life to pursue those long-term relationships. So they don't have that time to explore per se.
Do you think it's reasonable to get icked, to get the ick if someone says, hey, let's catch up? Why don't we go and grab coffee next week and let's catch up? Would that give you the ick? Is it reasonable for someone to get the ick?
I don't think so. But I'm also the kind of person that I am a fan of starting out as friends too, right? So that doesn't bother me.
Why do you think she would get the ick about something like that?
I just think that that's part of that very driven, like women, this driven, women being driven is like a cultural thing now, right?
Right. She's 32. She's 32 years old. She's still dating. And she's laying down a set of expectations that she has for men. I don't know. There just seems to be something rather discordant about being 32 years old and then laying down a set of expectations for men's behavior that include, how dare you say, let's catch up? I don't know, Camelia. Maybe when you're 32 years old, you should, start to.
Can't be choosy.
Yeah, maybe you ought to start thinking about, maybe is this reasonable at 32 years old to tell people, how dare you ask me out by saying, let's catch up?
Yeah, I don't understand that. Now, the other things I can kind of understand that when she talks about how that, she does, and I'm sure you laughed at this, she does want the man to set up the first date, right? To choose the time, to choose the location. And so part of her expectations too were that, you set up that date and that you confirm on the day of, and maybe this confirmation, I think this is sort of comes out of the business world end of things, right? But also, there are a lot of people, especially if you're talking about dating apps, that just flake out on you, right? And they ghost you and they stand you up and they don't follow through because they don't know you personally, so who cares?
Do you think that that would be wise for young women to take dating advice from a single 32-year-old woman?
I don't know about dating advice.
Which is what, but that's what this is. She's giving dating advice. She's single. She's 32. Do you think that in general, we're speaking in general here, Camelia. Do you think, would you recommend to your daughters to listen to a 32-year-old single woman's advice on TikTok about dating?
No. First of all, if it's on TikTok, there is some
TikTok
social
was
media
the first red flag.
If that's your go-to, well.
32 years old and single and offering some advice to other ladies. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if some of these older women really have younger women's best interests at heart, Camelia. Can you understand why I might feel that way?
I think they do have their best interest, but I'm not sure they're coming from a place of success either. And they have, like, the choices they have made have led them to this point to where it is, admittedly, more difficult to find someone that they are compatible with. I will say the one other thing that she talked about, I thought was something that in this age of feminism really spoke to this desire that women really do have to let men lead. And she said that the other thing that she wanted the man to do was to choose the place to eat or whatever. She does not want the indecisiveness to make a choice. So, there's a little bit of, I think, mixed messaging going on there, to where she wants to set a lot of boundaries, but she also wants the man to lead. And I come into this thinking, like, how do men know this? Like, how do they know what she wants, right?
Yeah, it always just strikes me as ironic that we get dating advice from single people who have been unsuccessful in relationships. And then it's weird because as women are getting older, then they're raising their standards, which I just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You would think you're getting older and your standards are getting more difficult, and then you're telling younger women who actually have a chance to follow your advice when you're not successful. And it almost seems as if they're trying to sabotage younger women on that one. But listen, I won't push it too far on this, Camellia. I think people know that I'm dripping with contempt, and also my tongue is firmly in cheek. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go today, CJ?
Well, one last word about that. I think that it would probably be more credible and valuable to younger women if people like this woman who's in her 30s talk about the things that have not worked for her, because sometimes you need to know what not to do.
Yes, look at me as an example of what not to do. Can you imagine a woman actually doing something like that? Don't follow in my footsteps. Look at me. Beware, beware. Now, that might actually be useful and entertaining.
I was gonna say, well, if anybody if any of the young ladies out there would like to have some tips on, learning from your mistakes and what not to do, feel free to give me a message.
There you go. Camellia will tell you what not to do. Camellia, love you. Thanks so much for your time.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good one.
I got away with everything under the last boss, and it wasn't good for me at all. So I want guidance. I want leadership. But don't just boss me around, lead me. Lead me when I'm in the mood to be led.
All right. We're going to hear from Angela McArdle, the chair of the Libertarian National Committee. I want to get her take on the Supreme Court case. I want to get her take on the reactions from the debate. We'll be right back with Angela McArdle. Don't go away. Enjoy the bonus content. Click like. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Do a little shopping. Women be shopping. Men be shopping at forlibertyshop.com.
Wake Up America show considers the lesser-known wars that shaped the American Republic. Today, we look at the circumstances surrounding the Philippine-American War, taken from the Bill of Rights Institute. The late 19th century saw a surge in American expansionism into the Pacific, driven by industrial wealth, trade ambitions, and a belief in cultural superiority. This new manifest destiny applied social Darwinism to justify racial and cultural dominance. Interest in Chinese trade led to several crises over Pacific Island bases essential for refueling steam vessels. American intervention in Hawaii's Civil War led to its annexation in 1898. The declining Spanish Empire retained control over Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. A worldwide depression and a high American tariff on Cuban sugar intensified tensions in Cuba, leading to rebellion against Spanish rule. President McKinley initially opposed war, but after the USS Maine sank, he demanded a declaration of war against Spain. Theodore Roosevelt's actions ensured the first shots were fired in the Philippines. Commodore George Dewey was ordered to destroy the Spanish Pacific Squadron in Manila Bay, leading to a decisive American victory with minimal casualties. Dewey's squadron easily defeated the outdated Spanish fleet, and after further bombardment, American Marines completed the destruction of Spanish defenses. Reinforcements arrived in June, and by then, other powerful nations had shown interest in the Philippines. Another Spanish flotilla was destroyed in Santiago de Cuba, leading to Spain's surrender after 10 weeks of fighting. The U.S. demanded harsh treaty terms, resulting in Spain surrendering Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Manila. Formal peace talks began in Paris. Expansionists dominated the U.S. delegation, advocating for keeping the Philippines as a base for trade and influence. Despite public support, an anti-imperialist movement argued that colonialism was un-American. the Treaty of Paris was approved by a narrow margin. General Emilio Aguinaldo led a Filipino nationalist revolt, believing the U.S. supported their independence. However, he realized the U.S. intended to occupy the Philippines. Aguinaldo declared an independent republic, but tensions led to the Philippine-American War. Filipinos saw the conflict as a war against foreign occupation, while Americans viewed it as an insurrection. The war was brutal, with Filipinos resorting to guerrilla tactics and Americans employing harsh pacification methods, leading to significant civilian deaths. Aguinaldo's capture in 1901 weakened the Filipino resistance. By 1902, over 20,000 Filipino fighters and 4,200 American soldiers had died. Civilian deaths due to war-related disease and starvation were estimated to be around 200,000, though this remains controversial. The annexation and subsequent guerrilla war sparked a debate over American imperialism. Many Americans opposed the colonial role, leading to a bitter political debate. The U.S. extended its military power and trade interests into the Pacific, becoming a global power. The Philippines finally achieved independence on July 4, 1946, after forming an alliance with the U.S. during World War II to resist Japanese occupation. The path to independence was long and fraught with conflict, but it eventually led to a close partnership. The expansionist fervor of the late 19th century led to U.S. acquisitions in the Pacific and the Caribbean, but not all movements were aligned with these goals. The anti-imperialist sentiment highlighted the internal divisions over America's global role. Social Darwinism provided a pseudo-scientific justification for colonial domination, influencing American policies during the Philippine-American War. It asserted racial superiority and supported imperialism, shaping the conflict's ideological backdrop. The immediate context of the Philippine-American War was Spain's defeat in the Spanish-American War. This set the stage for America's involvement in the Philippines, transitioning from liberators to occupiers, sparking resistance from Filipino nationalists. The Filipino revolt against American governance began after Filipino rebels and the American military defeated the Spanish. Emilio Aguinaldo's return to lead the revolt against Spain eventually turned into a struggle against American occupation.
Man, if I could just hang out backstage, hanging out with the guests and chit-chatting about this and that and whatever, it'd be so much more fun. I got work to do, though. Wake Up America show ain't gonna run itself. Good morning. Nice to see everybody here. If you're watching the Wake Up America show for the first time today, we'd love to have you be a regular guest. I see that we've got over 1,000 people watching us live at rumble.com. You love to see it. Wow. And I know that many of you who are watching right now, it's definitely your very first time watching the show, and you're here because Rumble probably put us on the front page because they are blessed and they are blessing us with their blessings. So don't miss out. The Wake Up America show is a 5-day-a-week, 2-hour live show, Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Put this show on your calendar. Come back and join us regularly. Hang out with the Freedom Crew in the Rumble live chat. We'd love for you to be a regular guest, for us to be cool, hanging out together. Sometimes we even do in-person retreats. Last year, we got everybody together and we went canoeing. This year, well, we're gonna have a baby this year, so probably not going canoeing anytime soon. But I promise you, we're gonna try and do something else in person as soon as I can make something like that happen. 760 people watching us live on x.com, 1,760 people. That's like a big concert hall. What's up, people? It's not like Taylor Swift, but it's like, you know, I'm like the libertarian Taylor Swift. Actually, my next guest looks a lot more like Taylor Swift than I do. She's the chair of the Libertarian National Committee, and she's making faces. Cringe. Angela, did my intro make you cringe? Nice to see you.
It was a little painful. Thank you. Great to see you.
Nice to have you here, Angela. We're grateful for you making this destination viewing on Tuesdays at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. You join us here live as a regular guest. You are the chair of the Libertarian National Committee. You are committed to electing big L libertarian candidates across the country, including your presidential candidate, Chase Oliver. But I must imagine that by watching the presidential debate last week, you must have said to yourself, that probably means a few more votes for the Libertarian Party. So talk to us about what you thought of Joe Biden's performance overall and what you think the impact might be on your electoral chances.
So I speculated that the CNN microphone muting and all of that wasn't really for Donald Trump. It was to help Joe Biden once he started glitching out and going off script. And I think that I was proved right. The only thing I found particularly shocking was how the corporate media ate him alive afterwards. I've never seen them cannibalize someone like that. I have always assumed that they work lockstep with the Democratic National Committee. So that was really fascinating. I do think that Chase Oliver is going to get more votes after that hot mess. I'm a little concerned about what could happen next. I think, like everybody's speculating, right? Freaking out. Are we going to get Gavin Newsom? Are they going to try to ram him through? What if it's Hillary Clinton? That's like the biggest concern. I'm more concerned that the Dems are going to do something really crazy, like martial law, oh, we can't vote this year. It's too important. We have to stop the vote, to save democracy, like that level of stuff. I'm more concerned with that than I am them replacing Biden. So yeah, there was a lot to unpack on that hideous debate. Donald Trump was on his best behavior. That was really interesting to see.
Angela, what do you think about the push by some in the government to invoke the 25th Amendment and to remove Joe Biden from office?
I think that they're pulling too hard at the fabric of the institution, and that is not going to happen. That really, I feel like they already got smacked really hard with the Supreme Court ruling that just came out, and I think that they would have a similar experience if they pulled it at the 25th Amendment.
Okay. Donald Trump obviously was on his best behavior, but by just sort of standing still, he looked far more dynamic than President Joe Biden with that stumbling, bumbling performance. For months, the left and the mainstream media has been telling us not to believe our lying eyes, and many of them, Whip Crack did an about face in 24 hours after we had been told by the White House themselves that these were cheap fakes, these videos of Joe Biden were fake, and that this was all a hit. Were you surprised to see that so many Democrats all of a sudden have changed their tune when it comes to Joe Biden?
I mean, I was surprised because I didn't see anything different than what I've been seeing. I assumed that they would just say, oh, he has a cold, oh, he just got over COVID. Look at how strong he is, that he just got over who knows what, right? And he's fine. It just was a little bit of a weak performance because he's sniffly. It's interesting, somebody at somewhere, in a position of power sent out marching orders. We got to throw this dude under the bus. And yeah, it was shocking to see.
What would you do if you were in Dr. Jill Biden's position as the first lady with your husband in this obvious state of disrepair?
I mean, I'd pull him out and, have him just retire with the family. The thing that's so difficult to guess at is, what does she want? Is she like this power hungry maniac behind the scenes? Does she just like really enjoy like the china or rugs in the White House? Like, I don't know what her deal is. But it's crazy how she's letting this go on. I wouldn't tolerate it.
Do you think that this fall's election will be fair, Angela?
Oh, I feel like it's too soon to say. I mean, I'm inclined to think it won't be, but it's really going to depend on what the Democrats do. The ball's in their court. They're the ones that probably cheat in elections, probably.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm speaking to Angela McArdle. She is the chair of the Libertarian National Committee. And I'm Austin Peterson here on the Wake Up America show. Please do click the like button and follow the channel if it's your first time watching us here. Angela, let's talk a little bit about the LP's response to this. I mean, you are advancing your own presidential candidate in such a situation. I mean, how do you think that that Chase Oliver would have performed on that stage compared to the other two?
Oh, well, he would have been awake. So that's I think the first thing. I think he definitely would have outperformed Joe Biden. I can't really. I think about all the time, what would it be like with a 1-to-1 with Donald Trump? And I'm not really sure. I feel like Chase would have like a lot of energy, but Donald Trump has all this gravitas. It just probably wouldn't land. It could fall flat. I don't know. That would be an interesting fight to see, but he'd certainly outperform Joe Biden. He's got a pulse, first of all, so there's, that's a advantage.
Well, Angela, let's switch subjects tangentially here, still somewhat related. The question of the Supreme Court's immunity case that was handed down yesterday, which granted the President of the United States immunity from actions that are taken while acting in his official constitutional capacity. The left have lost their minds on this. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, speaking for the minority in the court, believes that this now would give the President of the United States the ability to assassinate their presidential opponents, sending out SEAL Team 6 to kill former President Trump, if they wanted to. What was your reaction to the Supreme Court case? A lot of libertarians, official LP people, are out there agreeing with the dissent. They agree with Sonia Sotomayor. They think that this, and so does Chase Oliver, the presidential candidate. They're on board with Sonia Sotomayor's dissent in this case. What's your take on it?
I think my take on it is a little bit more jaded. Reading this, watching the whole thing unravel, it's sort of like watching a bad Marvel movie sequel. I felt like, oh, they've angered the gods. Oh, again? Oh, another layer of demigods, oh no, now we have to fight it out. They pulled too hard at the fabric of the institution. And I don't think the Supreme Court had any option except to issue this ruling, or else the whole facade just sort of falls apart. And it's basically like they made the Supreme Court say the quiet part out loud. The president has always enjoyed this type of immunity. That's why George W. Bush doesn't get dragged in for war crimes. That's why Obama gets to issue a drone strike on a United States citizen, and people scream, and they're outraged, and it just goes away. Nothing happens. The president has always enjoyed this kind of immunity, but the Dems went so hard for Donald Trump that they forced the Supreme Court to actually say something and speak it out loud. So my reaction to this is I'm like, yeah, that's bad. Not surprising at all. It's just, it's the way that it works. We just don't usually talk about it.
Okay, so I mean, that's quite cynical, but I thought that I had seen something that you had tweeted yesterday that was perhaps a bit more nuanced on this take when it came to the question of presidential immunity. You said people enjoy being mad when it comes to this. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think that people do get unreasonably outraged. I'm not particularly outraged by it. I'm not particularly surprised by it. On the one hand, social media incentivizes people to just have the most inflammatory, hyper emotional reaction. The left is extremely emotional. And I think that they're just leaning into the worst of this ruling. There is a good side to it, which is that the Supreme Court.
You say it's a strikes a blow against lawfare, you tweeted.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, the worst part of it is that, it says out loud, like, oh, the president can get away with just about anything. We already knew that. But the good thing is that there's, the Dems don't get to just go in on a fishing expedition and dig out every tiny little thing that Donald Trump has done to try to, overturn the course of events leading up to the next election. And I think that that's a good thing. The lawfare is getting out of control.
Can you see the Supreme Court majority's point of view on this, in that the president should be immune from prosecution while acting in their official duties in order to ensure that they are acting in what they believe to be the best interest of the country rather than trying to save their own skin? Because there is something of a conflict of interest if a decision that you're making is quite frequently it's a trolley problem that the presidents will have to face. And if they always have to be thinking about saving their own skin, then they're not thinking about what might bring about the best outcome for the people, correct?
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you're constantly worried about getting in trouble for every little thing you do in a position like that, where there's always going to be some negative side to anything that you do, I mean, you'd just be completely frozen and immobilized in your role. You know, they said, you know, he enjoys no immunity for his unofficial acts. So you've got that, but he gets presumptive immunity from prosecution for all of his official acts. I don't see much other way to move forward. I guess they could have given some highly technical, like really break it down, you know, view, but then we kind of get into, you know, are they legislating? They have to interpret the law. They don't get to write the law. And I think that that's what they did.
Angela, in a best case scenario, what role do you think that the Libertarian Party can possibly play in this fall's election?
Stealing votes from Joe Biden.
So we've talked about this before, but I imagine that of the many thousands of people who are watching us live right now, this might be the first time that they've ever heard this discussion. So let's have it again. Stealing votes from Joe Biden, as the Libertarian Party presidential candidate Chase Oliver will probably do. How does that work exactly? Why does he steal votes from Joe Biden and not Donald Trump? How are you making something like this happen? Explain to us for all the noobs here.
So our presidential candidate, Chase Oliver, is much more culturally on the left than many of our past presidential candidates. We've done some early polling, especially in swing states. He is not polling from former Donald Trump supporters very much. He is mostly polling from former Joe Biden supporters and also a little bit from the Green Party. And that's just the way it is. And some Libertarian Party members very upset about it. And, you know, I understand they didn't get their guy elected. We are not advancing what we perceive to be the, you know, previously thought out Mises Caucus strategy, but we have such an amazing opportunity this year because Chase Oliver is pulling votes from Joe Biden. The Trump campaign is aware of it. They're very excited about it. They're also looking to garner libertarian votes. They're making overtures to us, put a libertarian in the cabinet, abolish the Department of Education, so on and so forth. So I think it behooves us to support Chase Oliver, at least in the blue states and the swing states, maybe. You know, swing states have a lot of power, right? So they might get to help decide and wield influence. But that's what's going to happen with the Chase Oliver campaign, and so that's the way that I'm supporting it. I think it's a very exciting election year for libertarians.
Angela, of all of the potential names that have been floated for Donald Trump's vice presidential pick, is there anyone that doesn't make you want to climb to the top of a skyscraper and jump?
Vivek Ramaswamy. You know, JD Vance only makes me want to jump from like a 1 or 2 story. Like I would be upset and survive the fall. So, you know, it's not the worst. You know, Tim Scott, I'm at the, you know, I'm just diving off of the Twin Towers with that one. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Angela, also one last thing here. I don't know if you saw President Biden's response to the Supreme Court decision when it came to immunity, but he was looking a slightly oranger hue than normal.
I bet.
Did you notice that that Joe Biden came out and was looking like healthier than we have seen him even 24 hours before?
I think he was very, very excited. You know, I don't think that whatever he did with Ashley Biden in the shower happened while he was president. So he should, you know, check himself there. But I'm sure that there's been a lot of terrible things he's done, and he's going to really enjoy his official immunity now.
Angela, is there anything else as chair of the Libertarian Party that you would like to share with our listeners or plug before we let you go today?
Yes, we're working very hard to get Ross Ulbricht free. Donald Trump has pledged to pardon Ross Ulbricht and free him on day 1 of his presidency. So please keep the pressure up. Free Ross, you know, tweet that, send messages to the Trump team. Make sure you get that out there into the forefront.
We will do that. Angela McArdle, this is your regular Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Central guest spot. And we're grateful for you. Thanks for getting up so early and for being so generous with your time. Good luck out there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's give her a round of applause, shall we? Always love hearing from the chair of the Libertarian National Committee, Angela McArdle. We appreciate her very much.
I guess, theoretically, President Biden, acting within the scope of his official duties, could dispatch the military to take out the conservative justices on the court, and he'd be immune. I guess,
Ridiculous. So I'm not going to jump on the cynical libertarian train and say, oh, wait, stop that music. Pause. I've got one last story to share with you before we go. I'm not going to jump on the cynical libertarian train about the presidential immunity question because I've been interviewing Judge Andrew Napolitano on this subject for months. And even he thinks that presidents should enjoy some immunity from official acts taken while president of the United States. Now, Judge Napolitano joins us tomorrow on the show, so I'll be able to ask him that one more time just to clarify and understand things. But I also spoke to Donald Trump's lawyer, Will Scharf, earlier on the show as well. So if you missed that interview, make sure that you go back and do that. Now, before we go, I'm excited to share this story with you. I know that for many people out there, you're not going to sort of like care about this as much as I am. But for those of you out there who have good taste and who love delicious food, I'm only going to share a few minutes of this with you. But when I saw this coming to the United States after my trip to Japan last year, I got friggin' excited. I can only hope that this comes to Jefferson City. But if you live in a bigger city or near a bigger metro area, you might be about ready to see a massive renovation of your 7-Eleven store. Here's what that might mean. Okay, we're not going to go through that whole history, but I'm going to tell you this. Stephanie and I ate an unreasonable amount of our meals in Japan last year at 7-Eleven, and I know you're going to laugh. And it sounds ridiculous, but the 7-Elevens in Japan are friggin' amazing. The food is fresh. It's delicious. They have a wide variety of items there. Delicious coffee options, milk teas, unbelievable food. So like, wouldn't it be nice for it to no longer be a punchline here in the United States that you got gas station sushi? Because honestly, our 7-Elevens here in the United States are disgusting. And I don't eat anything out of gas stations as a rule. But if 7-Elevens came to the United States, like the ones in Japan, I think you guys would be shocked at how good the quality is. So there you go. That's exciting news. Congratulations to Japan. Congratulations to all of us for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the Wake Up America show today. With 1,200 people watching the Wake Up America show over at rumble.com, and with God knows how many over on X. So we're seeing 786 over on X. Those are the kinds of numbers that are changing our lives. Stephanie and me, my wife and I, we work so hard to produce this show for you every single day, to give you an incredible experience at our merchandise store at forlibertyshop.com. The 3 guests that you heard today on the Wake Up America show, they're taking their time out of their busy schedules to make it happen. Will Scharf, all these things, they don't come out of nowhere. They come out of the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears of the Peterson family, trying to bring you the absolute best in talk shows for the mornings. So if you want to give back a little bit, just click like, totally free. And what we'd love to have you do is just be a regular guest. I know that tomorrow we're probably not going to get featured on Rumble, and maybe X isn't going to favor us up in the feeds, and we won't have 1,800 people watching us live tomorrow morning. But if we have 4 or 5 more people who are listening right now and say to themselves, I'm going to join the show again tomorrow morning, I'm going to consider that a win, right? So tomorrow we might have 200 or 300 people watching the Wake Up America show, and that's great if we've added 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more souls to join us in our quest for economic freedom and personal liberty. Also, don't forget, as you exit, you get to exit through the Grift Shop. Yes. What is the Grift Shop, Austin? I've never watched the Wake Up America show before. Well, the Grift Shop is forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4 or FOR. Either one will take you there. Exit through the Grift Shop. Check out our patriotic merch, Where Eagles Dare, at forlibertyshop.com. We've got incredible coffee, the best coffee in the world, absolutely delicious. Jeffersonian Java, #1 seller this week. Thomas's Painkiller, Washington's Revolutionary Roast, Franklin's Electric Elixir. Remember, those prices include shipping. Our Thug Life mug with Donald Trump is selling well. How to Spot a Communist Tea. Libertarians for Trump merch. Appeal to Heaven flags. a fantastic variety. Just go through all of the collections. Check out all the cool stuff we have on offer: bikinis, tank tops, machine gun keychains, Gadsden shirts, customized metal signs, 3D printed plastic Buddhas, drinkware, everything you can imagine at the Grift Shop at forlibertyshop.com. All right, thanks so much for watching today, guys. I hate to leave with such a huge audience, but I got to go plan for the next show tomorrow morning. So glad you enjoyed it. We'll see you here tomorrow on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Wake Up America Show considers the lesser-known wars that shaped the American Republic. Today, we look at the circumstances surrounding the Philippine-American War, taken from the Bill of Rights Institute. The late 19th century saw a surge in American expansionism into the Pacific, driven by industrial wealth, trade ambitions, and a belief in cultural superiority. This new manifest destiny applied social Darwinism to justify racial and cultural dominance. Interest in Chinese trade led to several crises over Pacific Island bases, essential for refueling steam vessels. American intervention in Hawaii's Civil War led to its annexation in 1898. The declining Spanish Empire retained control over Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. A worldwide depression and a high American tariff on Cuban sugar intensified tensions in Cuba, leading to rebellion against Spanish rule. President McKinley initially opposed war, but after the USS Maine sank, he demanded a declaration of war against Spain. Theodore Roosevelt's actions ensured the first shots were fired in the Philippines. Commodore George Dewey was ordered to destroy the Spanish Pacific Squadron in Manila Bay, leading to a decisive American victory with minimal casualties. Dewey's squadron easily defeated the outdated Spanish fleet, and after further bombardment, American Marines completed the destruction of Spanish defenses. Reinforcements arrived in June, and by then, other powerful nations had shown interest in the Philippines. Another Spanish flotilla was destroyed in Santiago de Cuba, leading to Spain's surrender after 10 weeks of fighting. The U.S. demanded harsh treaty terms, resulting in Spain surrendering Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Manila. Formal peace talks began in Paris. Expansionists dominated the U.S. delegation, advocating for keeping the Philippines as a base for trade and influence. Despite public support, an anti-imperialist movement argued that colonialism was un-American. The Treaty of Paris was approved by a narrow margin. General Emilio Aguinaldo led a Filipino nationalist revolt, believing the U.S. supported their independence. However, he realized the U.S. intended to occupy the Philippines. Aguinaldo declared an independent republic, but tensions led to the Philippine-American War. Filipinos saw the conflict as a war against foreign occupation, while Americans viewed it as an insurrection. The war was brutal, with Filipinos resorting to guerrilla tactics and Americans employing harsh pacification methods, leading to significant civilian deaths. Aguinaldo's capture in 1901 weakened the Filipino resistance. By 1902, over 20,000 Filipino fighters and 4,200 American soldiers had died. Civilian deaths due to war-related disease and starvation were estimated to be around 200,000, though this remains controversial. The annexation and subsequent guerrilla war sparked a debate over American imperialism. Many Americans opposed the colonial role, leading to a bitter political debate. The U.S. extended its military power and trade interests into the Pacific, becoming a global power. The Philippines finally achieved independence on July 4, 1946, after forming an alliance with the U.S. during World War II to resist Japanese occupation. The path to independence was long and fraught with conflict, but it eventually led to a close partnership. The expansionist fervor of the late 19th century led to U.S. acquisitions in the Pacific and the Caribbean, but not all movements were aligned with these goals. The anti-imperialist sentiment highlighted the internal divisions over America's global role. Social Darwinism provided a pseudo-scientific justification for colonial domination, influencing American policies during the Philippine-American War. It asserted racial superiority and supported imperialism, shaping the conflict's ideological backdrop. The immediate context of the Philippine-American War was Spain's defeat in the Spanish-American War. This set the stage for America's involvement in the Philippines, transitioning from liberators to occupiers, sparking resistance from Filipino nationalists. The Filipino revolt against American governance began after Filipino rebels and the American military defeated the Spanish. Emilio Aguinaldo's return to lead the revolt against Spain eventually turned into a struggle against American occupation.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to wake up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.